Hello. I wanted to give a little bit of a video today to explain something about the past that I've dealt with that I currently see in the media today that's still around. So in 2017, 2018, I was investigating the use of my students in social attacks on me, and it had happened in the past. So I was investigating how do I approach this in such a way that I could be most effective, given that I've already had contacted quite a few people around the world, and the Green Berets responded with respect to my military work in order to clear out some slave dens and stuff like that. They were shooting not tickles, but brass tacks. Um, and so it was important to be able to continue to further this work while I continued to negotiate some of the problems that I was dealing with at the time. And I have been around since before Wikipedia exists on the internet. So the idea that, I've seen a bunch of shit, horrible, just horrible stuff. And you can only take or deal with so much at a given time that it, you phase out, you become detached, and it's all awful. And I had to go back to school for my physics and chemistry and engineering. And so I was working on that. I wrote an email to the FBI. I figured that was the most expedient and effective way, because what I was having happen was I was looking at adult material, not something I do a shit ton, but the I was being redirected. I was being redirected to child abuse material, and so I submitted to the FBI that I'm being redirected, and there's no cause for this. I don't understand why this is happening, and the people who needed to be caught about it were prosecuted, as far as I know. I followed the stories as they progressed after I submitted the tips and the methodology of what was happening and how it was occurring. So I'm not saying that, there are male victims out here, because Jeffrey Epstein and was running a pedophile ring, and he was creating political dirt, and he was doing it for a long time. I mean, in order to be able to get that high up, and in order to be able to run such an extensive network of criminality, he had to have extorted people. And when you have that money and power and sexual drive, those lead you to a lot of horrible things if there's no checks and balances, and he's not, and he's mentally unhealthy. I personally would not make those decisions. I would stop him. And it seemed like what stood out to me was Mark Foley in 2006 and Trump's comments on him, saying that there's no age limit. I just explained this to the BBC. If Trump was going on the Howard Stern show as a 50 something year old man and saying, 59, I think he was at the time, and saying he could have all of the girls that are age 13 to 17 that he wanted if he weren't married. Think about what that says. That's basically exposing himself to investigation in the hopes that he might be investigated and people might be caught who are in those types of situations, who are performing those actions. And I think that is lost sometimes when we are talking about who the president is, who Obama is. These aren't, and who George W. Bush was at the time of this. This was 5 years after 9/11. Um, During the Iraq conflict, during the Afghani conflict. So these things all matter when we're talking about the reasons why that somebody would behave such a way in such a situation. And it's important to understand that even just talking about myself looking at adult material is hard for me to do. It exposes me to criticism. It exposes me to examination with the past because I was a teacher for 14 years. But that doesn't mean I was a criminal who was willing to commit crimes, especially with my students. That should be remembered. And, you know, stepping forward and sounding alarms when I see abuse happening shouldn't be punished. And that's where we're at today, where people who step forward get hammered down. That there are people in power who believe that snitches get stitches means that if you speak out, you're going to get cut. As opposed to you're already hurting, you're already wounded. And if you tell somebody, you might get the stitches that allow you to heal. Not every victim is female when talking about a political ring that has gone on for 20 years and extortion means and methods are used and fabricated. It's just not rational. And not every female deserves to be mitigated for that. And not every male deserves the same equal respect in the sense that they deserve a chance to be able to put themselves forward in the situations that they were in to establish that they were not behaving in a criminal way. And that should be acceptable because there's still a lot of work to be done. And there's still a lot to be understood. And Ghislaine Maxwell should not be giving comfort. So this is something to remember going forward. It's something that has been dealt with in the past, and it's something that will have to be dealt with again. Because the tools, means, and methods that people use to take advantage of the systems and take advantage of people are the things that the people who are trying to defend against have to keep up with. So that's what I mean when I say that we think about things situationally, because we have to keep inventing, reforming, and changing. Otherwise, we'll get left behind and we'll be left with people who are not working toward the greater good for the common people and for the people who are being affected by these actions. That's what I wanted to say today. Thank you and have a good day.